Hi everyone, good evening, afternoon or morning, whenever you're watching this. Hope you are doing well. Hope everyone's staying safe. As at the time I'm recording this, the coronavirus is just being classed as a pandemic, which is quite an interesting turn of events. So hope everyone's staying safe and looking out for your elderly and your vulnerable, making sure they're okay. Yeah, look after yourself. Before I start, as per normal, I want to thank you again. I should stop doing this at some point, but it blows my mind every time when I see how many people are commenting and subscribing. It really means a lot. So thank you again. There are also some of you that are just watching and not subscribing. That's fine, but you know, it would be nice if you subscribe as well, because that helps to get the information so more people can see it, more people can relate to it, and more people either get help from it, essentially. Okay, so what I wanted to talk about today is a bit of a follow-on from the waking up journey, because it is almost like two years to the point where I saw all the information that eventually woke me up. So it was around March, April of 2018, and it's almost 2 years to the point, and I wanted to share what that has been like, what that journey has been like. And the aim of doing this is that if there's someone who is in that point where they've just woken up and they're having all of these feelings or these emotions, to validate them, for them to hear that someone else is going through it as well. It's absolutely normal. It's going to be fine. There is a time that will come 2 years down the line where things won't be as intense. So as per normal, I'm not editing. I'm going to be saying it as it flows, being completely raw, and hope it helps. So like I said, it was around March, April of 2018 where I was coming to the point of gathering all the information. The questioning probably started towards the end of 2017, but it took that much time, I guess, to run through all of the information. So I was looking through places like JW Survey, which I'm sure a lot of you know about, JW Facts as well. That's another like really good source of information. The John Cedars channel here on YouTube, that was one that I think he does a really good job of explaining things, which is why there are some things that I'm not going to try and cover, because he does a fantastic job of it anyway. So if you want a lot of things broken down, a lot of keeping on top of things, good place to do that. XJW Analyzer as well. He is on it with covering things like more regularly. So I'm not going to try and stay on top of everything that they're doing. I'm just sort of the high level things that matter. So those were some of the channels that I looked at. One that is, I don't think she's making videos anymore, Anonymous. She was really good to listen to as well. I like the way she reasoned things out. So anyway, around this time, I was putting everything together. What was going on in my mind at the time, the state of my mind was, everything felt so intense. It was as if I was going to explode from the inside, just so much pressure. My head was constantly going with, oh my goodness, what am I finding out here? What does this mean? Because it was such a shock. The fact that it was possible for this not to be true, because I mean, if you're anything like I was when you're a witness, it doesn't even cross your mind that they could possibly be wrong. It's not even something that you think about. It's drilled so far down into you that this is the truth, and there's just no questioning. So the fact that this could possibly be wrong, it was like it was like the ground underneath me had opened and I was going down it and I was just spiraling down it, and oh my goodness. So that was the first thing. Something I found myself doing as well was like it's not new, but I felt like that was even worse at that point. I started to isolate for, well, one, I didn't feel like I could hold a conversation in the outside, in the real world, because the conversation that was going on in here was non-stop. So other than essential activities like, show up for work, get my child to school, just things that absolutely needed to happen. Anything else, I wasn't seeing friends. There was just no space. I think that's how I described it then. Like there's no space mentally to even deal with anything else. Every moment I got, I was just in there, almost like rocking myself in a chair, like a self-soothing, like, oh my goodness, this is happening. The reason I'm sharing this is if any of this is happening to you right now, it happened to me too. It's absolutely fine. So after the intensity, or in the midst of the intensity, the next set of feelings that came was fear of what does this now mean? Fear and a sense of being lost, because something that happened with me, and if you haven't probably guessed from my first video where I was talking about Bible verses that really worried me while I was a witness, part of what happened as during the process of realizing the man-madeness of what the witness faith was, what became something that stood out to me in the midst of that was, as crazy as I might think some of their teachings are, as awful and horrible as I might think what they believe I don't know what I'm saying, but as harmful as I thought their teachings were, we know that every few sentences, they have a Bible verse to back up what they're saying, to go with that. And a lot of what was being said was actually in there. Yes, you can say it's a matter of interpretation, but that stuff is in there. So what was unraveling for me at the time was not just the witnesses, but the Bible itself, and realizing that I didn't believe anymore, that not just that the witnesses were not God's true organization, I didn't believe either that the Bible was the word of a God. So that was, I don't know that I would ever have anything like this again, where my entire worldview was being like ripped and shaken from the foundation. So it was like, now what does this mean? What does this mean for the meaning of my life? It's sort of existential crisis, essentially. What does this mean? And just that feeling of being lost, I guess, was the next thing that came from that. The other thing that I was experiencing at the time as well, sort of a bit further down, maybe like towards the end of April, was that need to confess to the people in the church that I had been attending for a while at that point, who were absolutely fantastic to me. Great set of people, great bunch of people. But after experiencing the hypocrisy that I have talked about in my last video, or somewhere, in my journey out video, the hypocrisy, I knew that from many years ago, after leaving, I had made a decision to myself that I would never be caught up in that again. I'm gonna be what you see is what you get. I am done with hypocrisy, any lies, any pretense. What you see, that's what you get. I think if you've grown up in it like myself, you've seen and lived through enough hypocrisy to last a lifetime. So just determined to be absolutely straight. I'm going to call it out straight. So as soon as things, became clear to me, I knew that I had to go talk to the couple who led the church and let them know straight on that, yes, I know I am coming here every week. I am part of your visuals team. So I was part of the team that did the PowerPoint slides on a Sunday to pull up the words for the song or Bible verses. And so I just had to speak to them to say, I don't believe the way you do. I don't believe it. So I asked to meet up with the wife for a cup of coffee, and I told her, and if you anything, if you've come from a witness background, stuff like that usually means that you get cut off. And so I don't know what I was expecting, but she was absolutely like, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, of course, yes, I'm sad about that, but you're still, part of the family. We still consider you part of us. But I knew that what I didn't want to do was put myself through the sitting there day in, day out. And so what happened from that point onwards was that I would only go when I was on the rota to actually do stuff, and not sort of every week. And I'll talk about my second reason for that on a different video, the concept of children and the sort of conversations that happen around religion, the fact that those things are taught as fact. As someone who doesn't believe that anymore, do I want my child hearing that as fact rather than as an opinion? Whole other thing, but that's what we did, and that was a huge relief. Which of course it makes sense. That is how people behave. People don't cut off friends just because they don't believe the same thing. But that was lovely to see. And then the other thing, the other set of people that I really wanted to talk to were my friends, because up until right now, the people that are very much closest to me, friendship wise, they are all Christians, and so I felt like I had to talk to them. And again, they were like, yeah, it's sad, but whatever, it doesn't matter. So that was a relief. But then so that was done. Some interesting conversations and that came off of that as well, sometimes quite intense conversations, but on the whole, absolutely different reaction from what you would have living the witness faith. Once that was done, until now, and this is totally not on them, this is totally on me from where I'm coming from. Even though they're absolutely fine with it, the remnants of what happens when you're raised as a witness, I'm potentially on some level feeling some sort of barrier, and that's something that I've got to work through and make that separation myself, because in the real world, there's more to life than what you believe. I know that usually when you are a practicing Christian and you believe it is the most important thing in your life, but on a day-to-day, they're not cutting people off based on that. And then came the anger, the fury, the anger of, oh my God, I lost so much. I lost so much in terms of what childhood could have been, the experiences I could have had, the childhood I could have had, some of the more difficult stuff that happened and that were fostered because of being in that environment. The dysfunctional, I can't speak, dysfunctional social skills that come from having been in this bubble where relationships are totally engineered. You're not free to really choose who are going to be your friends. They are there ready made for you. Everything else is discouraged actively. So that sort of social skills, that thinking for yourself, that just a lot of loss that I was really angry for. Fortunately, this sort of direct anger for myself, that seems to be subsiding. So it does subside. If you let it, don't fight it. Scream if you have to. I don't know how many times I've sat in a room and just screamed. Like, let it out. We are talking potentially years of your life here. Let it out. If you're feeling that, that's absolutely normal. But please don't stay there. Because that sort of leads to the next thing that I want to talk about. In the last few weeks or so, and that's possibly why I am more ready to share more, is that I want to move on. I want to move forward. I don't have it all figured out on how I'm going to do that, but I know that I want to. I want to go on to the next step. I feel like I have taken in what I need to take in. I have felt the anger. There's remnants of it. There are things that still shock me, stuff like the Oxygen documentary, and I just don't know how far these people can go, how far they can go, but I am ready to move on. I am ready to not let it dominate more of my life anymore. Yes, there's the aspect of the relationship with family, which will probably always keep it close to my heart, but I'm ready to move on. I don't know exactly what that looks like, but that's perhaps what I hope to share with this channel, how I am moving on, how I am going forward. I would say that probably for most of 2018 and the first half of 2019 was probably spent in that intense state of everything going on and not being able to think about anything else. I felt like I was going mad. And then towards the end of last year, I won't say the fog started, like the intensity sort of eased up a little bit. There was room to actually think of other things. The amount of time is going to take is going to be different for each person, but the intensity for me started to loosen a bit towards the end of last year. There are things that still hurt, absolutely, but I know that I'm ready to move on, and I hope that if you are in that beginning stage, whenever you watch this, even if it's not right now, if it's 5-10 years time, is there going to be YouTube in 10 years time? I don't know, but whenever you see this, whatever part of the journey that you're in, I hope that you can eventually move on, and that's what I think I'm going to be sharing. There are some of the key issues that maybe a lot of us that have left for. I will still touch on those. So things like maybe the blood policy, the discouragement of higher education and my thoughts on that. But essentially it's going to be a recovery, moving on journey, and how we're trying to salvage something of the life that we're now free to live. So that's sort of coming up to the 2-year point of leaving. That's what's happened since. If you have any questions that you want to know, feel free to ask. I will answer as honestly as I can. I love reading your comments. I love hearing your stories. And for those of you who are still having to be physically in, but you're mentally out, my heart goes out to you. I really hope that your loved ones, the ones that make you still want to stay in. I hope that, you're able to either get through to them directly, or somehow the barrage of information that's out there get to them and they start to question things as well, so you can live together and go, start your life away from this high control cult and group. Okay, I'm gonna leave it there. I will see you on the next one. Lost my train of thought there. Okay, bye.